So it will be available after the meeting. Righty, this down. Right. So we have quite a few power agents in Mississippi. We have some that are times two as well. So we want to congratulate our recent times two power agents, Heather Seymour, Hillary Copeland, Lee Garland, Lisa Dillon, Melissa Johnson, and Rebecca Campbell just hit power agents. So let's give them a big round of applause. That's huge. Congratulations to you guys. All right, our new agents. Christy Albergo, Madeline Hebert, Madison Anderson, and Tanya Timler. Welcome to our new agents. We are so excited to have you with our Epic Royalty family. And we have some birthdays this month. So happy birthday, Debbie Killing, November the 5th, Stephanie Minyard, November the 20th, Jacoby McGee, November the 25th, Randy Inman, November 28th, and Amy Orsi, November 28th. Happy birthday, guys. There's our beautiful agents there. Give them a big happy birthday. Right. Get that off of there. Our top producers. You guys killed it in October. We had 14.3 million in production, 62 clients served, units sold. So our number one producer, Melissa Johnson. Number two is Monica Wells, and three, Bradley Bianca. Four is Debbie Killen. Five, Kel Richardson. Six, Sarah Ramey. Seven, Lisa Dillon. Eight, Rebecca Campbell. Nine is Lee Garland. And 10 is Mary Hankins. You guys give yourselves a big round of applause. That's a lot. You guys are killing it. So happy for all of you. And everyone who had a closing, congratulations to y'all as well. All right, so we've talked about this. It's something that we're not going to stop talking about because I'm seeing it more and more. Like used to, it was once or twice a week, and it's almost like a daily occurrence now. So be mindful whenever you're working with clients. There's a lot of red flags out there that I'm getting as an agent. I'm sure you guys are getting these texts as well. Some quick things, some homework that we're going to, housekeeping things that we're going to cover this morning. So if you get a text, that looks similar to this one here. This was 100% a scam. This was not anything that would have been a client that we were going to work with. It can look like this. One I got yesterday, it was actually an email. So this is the new thing that they're doing. An email that goes something like this. Hey, Natalie, I've been looking at your profile online. I found this house that I really want to look at. Would love to set up a time to come by and look. However, they're not going to be looking. They're actually going to get you on a Zoom call that they try to set up themselves. They'll ask you if they can establish client relationship by Zoom call. And it is 100% a scam. So what they're going to do is they're going to try to steal your data on your computer. So they'll try to set up the Zoom call. If you get a text message or an email that says they want to initiate the Zoom call, that's a hard no. We had an agent that this recently almost happened to, and the potential person that they thought was a client was actually a scammer, was trying to get their identity and their information from their computer. So I strongly caution you guys when you have a phone number, an email, we have a lot of safe showing things that are available to us, background checks. Some things that I use in my daily business practice is Forewarn, which is provided to us by our MLS association. Some of you don't have access to this, but majority of you do. About 90% of our agents in Mississippi have the Forewarn app. And then also GCAR is providing the Safe Showing app as well. So Been Verified is a good tool to use. Double check on property records, tax records, and they're giving license and warranty deeds, fake license, fake warranty deeds that would represent that it was the owner, but in reality, they're not. They're forged, they're fake, and it is 100% a scam. So be mindful, there's multiple scams out there right now. Some of them want your identity. Some of them want all the information on your computer. And others are simply trying to steal properties. And some of them go to closing. Some of them we've seen go to closing as well, where there is cash exchanged and people are out money. So you guys have to be really careful out there. If you ever suspect that you're dealing with a scam, please come get with me, and I'll help you work through that person that you think might be questionable. So, all right, moving on. Those dues are due. All of our dues are due. So, your yearly membership fees with your local association. I know we've talked about this in recent meetings, but they are upon us and they are due. So, we don't want you to be late. We don't want you to have late fees. Make sure that you are paying your associations, whichever you're a member of. CMR did theirs a little bit different this year. They're due by December the 1st, and make sure you're getting them paid so you don't have a late fee and the brokerage is not cut off. Keep in mind, if you guys do not pay your National Association dues, you're put on something called a non-member. The brokerage is assessed a $500 fee, which that fee is something that you will incur. And you're not an R member. They take you off of you're basically a non-member agent at that point. So want you guys to keep up with your dues, make sure you're getting those paid. That is the responsibility of the agent. You'll also see some MREC things coming across for those of you who are newer agents, and then even not newer, some established agents. They have a new email campaign that they're doing, and I'm super grateful for that campaign because they're keeping me in the loop. So whenever your E&O insurance is due or your continuing education, things that are important, license renewals, those are all being sent to me as the broker. And then you are getting an email. A lot of you have gotten an email from me already that just kind of reiterates what the Mississippi Real Estate Commission is asking you to do. So they're giving 30-day notices. Those 30-day notices come out with either your CE being due, your license renewal being due, and a lot of times, something else that we're seeing is maybe you're not compliant with certain things, but they're doing very well with their email correspondence and the new email campaign that they're sending out to the brokers. So, if you get a notification from me, just know that that came from the MREC, and I'm passing that along to you as well. All right, MLS United, those dues are due by December the 15th, and they send you a bill directly, a link that you can go in the portal and pay it. So if you guys have any questions, get with me on that and let me know. Again, I want you to verify your contractor licensure. Make sure that whenever you're having those repairs done for your client, that it is someone who is licensed, if that is what is written in the contract. Sometimes you may not have the verbiage in there that says it's to be done by a qualified professional. But if it is, if that request is whether you're the listing agent or the buyer's agent, make sure you're reading your contracts. If it says it's to be done by a licensed professional, you want to make sure that that work is being done by someone who's licensed. All right, we also have our Epic Christmas party. It's going to be December the 18th. This is statewide. We want you all to participate. We've got a lot of good things that are going to be going on. We have some awards that are going to be presented at this party too. So it's going to be at the Mahogany. We have the branch room rented out. We're going to have the Grinch present. We'll have some giveaways, door prizes. It's going to be a real fun evening. So everything has been finalized. We've got the menu finalized and all that. So evening of fellowship, food and fun, and just a big party. So I hope to see you all there and be looking for the release of future information regarding that party. All right, MREC advertisement. You all know that whenever you're posting on social media, if I send you a message that says, hey, please add the office phone number, it's for you to be compliant. The rules and regulations, your name can't be bigger than Epic and it has to be in equal proximity. You have to have your cell phone number, the office license phone number, the office phone number, not license, excuse me, office phone number, which is 888-893-3537. It should be visible, your number and the office number, your name, and Epic Realty on all advertising, not just social media, anything that you're doing, text message correspondence, email signatures, everything. So always keeping you guys compliant. If I send you a text message, just know that it's out of brokering love. I'm not getting on to you. I'm just trying to keep you compliant. You'd rather get that message and call from me before the real estate commission calls me and says, hey, we have an issue. So be compliant. Also, make sure that when you're posting anything that you've sold, make sure that you're getting permission from the appropriate parties that you can advertise that that property has sold. All right, we have come to the end of this, and we are going to jump into a little bit of contract training here today. I want to go over some things with you guys, some good housekeeping procedures. Do y'all have any questions so far? Anything y'all have input? Anything you want to say?
Just a quick question on the advertising. That's not on on all text messages. That's just if you send out advertising, right?
So, are you talking about like a text message, Lisa, when you get it over? Like,
Yes,
okay. So what I do as
making
process
sure.
is whenever I am that first like correspondence, I get a phone call. Maybe it's a missed phone call. Maybe it's, hey, I'm following up with that person to let them know who they're speaking with. I'm not just going to say, hey, this is Natalie Graham with Epic Realty. I'm going to say, hey, this is Natalie Graham with Epic Realty. And I'm going to have all my compliance things at the bottom of that whenever I'm sending that text message to the potential client that I might be working with. I don't do it on every single text message, but initially, like if they're reaching out or if it's, somebody that I'm contacting, trying to get a hold of them, maybe looking to, sell their house, something like that. Usually, yes, I will send out my name, company name, and then have both phone numbers for compliance on there. So,
Okay.
text message, yes, but any kind of advertising, we always have to
Yeah,
have the office phone number and then the
right.
agent's number too.
Of course. Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. All right, so co-op forums. This has been a hot topic this past week, and I've been back and forth with quite a few agents. So we did have a new co-op forum, but it's not so new. This forum has been out for a few months now, actually since August. It was redone. So I want to go through this real quick with you guys. We have a lot of new agents on the call too to make sure you understand this forum. All right. The first thing that you have to do prior to any licensable activity, that means working with that client where that referral is coming from. All right. So, what you want to keep in mind is if you're getting an Op City referral over and you've established agency with that client before you're going to go out and show property, you've got to get this form signed by the out of state broker. This form has to be signed by the out of state broker before it's sent to me. So I will not sign this form. If you send it to me, I'm not going to sign it before the out of state broker. And here's why. I've got 10 days to file this online inside of the MREC portal, in the broker portal. You can't file it. You can't go into my portal and file it yourself. Any referral where we're sending money out of Mississippi, this form has got to be established. So this form must be sent to the out-of-state broker, whether that's a Op City broker, Zillow Flex broker, whatever it is, you've got to have this form signed. All right, so let's talk through this form for just a second. I do not send this form any longer to the real estate commission. I did have one agent that messaged me and asked if I was going to get a signed copy back from the MREC, and that no longer exists. So, whenever you send this form to me and I sign it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a follow-up email after I have filed it in the broker portal. So once I have all the information on here and I've signed it, I go directly into my broker portal. I put all the information in the broker tab. I file it. I put your name at the bottom so I note whose referral it is. And I can go back in at any point in time and see those referrals. But as far as getting a paper copy or anything stamped by the Mississippi Real Estate Commission, that's no longer a thing. So we don't get that anymore. But I will send you an email back that says, hey, I've received your cooperating agreement. I've gone into the MREX portal and I have filed this on your behalf. And that is the only notice you're going to get from me as the broker. All right. What you can do is inside of your SkySlope file, whenever you have your section, there's going to be a portion that's added there, and we're in the process of working with SkySlope to add that. But it's going to say it's going to ask you if you have if your MREC co-op form has been completed, and then you'll just go in that box there and make a note. So once that has been filed by me and you've received that email, you'll go inside of your SkySlope dashboard and you'll make a note there. The Mississippi license principal broker information goes here. That is my information. It's my name, my license number, the address, which is our primary office, 43 Town Center Square, Suite 203, Hattiesburg. If you want a mock-up form of this, I'll be more than happy to give you guys a copy. I've sent this to several agents just so they have it as a reference. Your non-Mississippi principal broker's information. This is the broker who is referring the business to us. In return, we are sending them a referral fee. Their information, their name goes here, their address is going to go here, business mailing address goes here, and then also their phone number is going to go here. This form should be filled out in its entirety prior to you sending the form to that broker for signature. Client's name goes here. This is the person you're going to be working with. It's the buyer, seller, could be either or, could be both. Client's name goes there, their address, the phone number, and it's going to ask you if they're an owner or a seller or a buyer. It tells you how to fill all that out there. If you're working with a seller, you will check the seller box above and insert that address there. Your agreement date, the date that you receive the referral, and then how long that it's good for. Your expiration date is going to go there. Most of the ones we get is a client customer referral from a non-Mississippi principal broker. Most of you have this box checked. However, some of these could be applicable and it may not be just a customer referral, non-Mississippi principal broker. I will tell you this. If you have a purchase or sale contract that's procured by a non-Mississippi principal broker, the Mississippi Real Estate Commission will request a copy of that, and I have to send it to them for them to keep that on file. So be mindful when you're checking these boxes, make sure you know what type of referral it is. We had one recently that it was just a misunderstanding and we did not have the contract that was procured by a non-Mississippi principal broker. The agent just filled it out wrong, and so we had to get it corrected. The Mississippi Real Estate Commission worked with us on that, and they were very kind to help us work through that. So it was an honest mistake, and we got it corrected. Your agreed upon compensation. This here, so the Mississippi licensed principal broker, this is how much you are going to be receiving. The brokerage is receiving commission. So it could be any number. It depends on what that referral amount is that's coming in. 60%, 40% compensation. Non-Mississippi principal broker, that's where we're sending the money to the out-of-state broker. This is the amount that they're going to receive here. All right, scrolling down. This here should not be confused. A lot of you have asked questions about it. The non-Mississippi principal broker signature will always go on this side. It tells you right here. Referral broker's name goes here. They are to sign here. This is the part that they've got to sign before it's sent to me. So the out-of-state broker is going to sign this. We must verify that that broker is actually licensed, that they hold a real estate license for us to pay them as well. So keep that in mind. If they're not licensed, it's not a referral and we're not paying them. Cannot pay anyone by state law that's not licensed. All right, and then once that's signed, you're going to send it to me. I'll sign here. I want you to send it through SkySlope. That way we have a paper trail. If I ever have an audit, I know that you sent it here, and I'm going to sign it inside of SkySlope portal, and then I go and file it. So that's all you need to do from that point. All right, working with a real estate broker. Most of all of you know how to fill this out. If you're working with strictly a customer, their signatures are going to go over here. If they're a client, they go over here. It's not to be confused. They don't sign on both sides. They're either one or the other. They're either a customer or they're a client. Another good thing to note is once they're a client, they can't go and be a customer ever, ever, ever. That's no such thing. That would never happen. If they are a customer and they're wanting to establish in being a client and have that representation, they could go from a customer and be a client. But one thing that I recently had a question about was, could they go from a client and be a customer? No, they cannot, ever. Like once they're a client, they're going to be a client. They cannot go back to be a customer. So your signature is going to go there, and then you'll have it dated appropriately here. If you are a dual agent, You want to keep in mind whether it's buyer or seller, you got separate forms. Make sure that you are checking that box if you have a dual agency representation. And also for the listings, I want you guys to keep in mind that if you are taking a listing and that seller has agreed for dual agency for that listing, which there's really no reason why they shouldn't, that nobody in our company can show that property that you are listing if this box is not checked. So if they are the seller, take away the buyers here. When you're working with a seller, they're going to check this box as being the client. And if they want any agent from our offices in Mississippi to show their property, this box must be checked to allow that dual agency. All right, moving down. Most of you know how to work through a sales contract. I'm going to do a deep dive. I've got a updated video coming out for our newer agents. We're cutting a little bit short on time here, so I'm going to wrap it up about 10:30 and then turn it over to Randy. But for our newer agents, I'm going to go deep dive on just all the necessary documents that you need to get those contracts started when you're working with people, different scenarios, and all that good stuff. Great. Earnest money. I want to talk to you guys about this real quick. Yes, we do have an earnest money account in process, and we've been preaching to the choir for quite some time, but it is coming, and I promise you guys, it's almost here. So, earnest money. Let's talk about it for a second. I want to ask you guys a few questions. And I also dropped a handout for you guys on earnest money. It's in the chat box for those of you who want to save it. Just good housekeeping practices. All right, so let's say you have a multiple offer situation. And you're the listing agent and you go under contract, and buyer B's broker texts you and says, hey, just checking to see like on the offer, what has your seller decided? And you text that agent back and you say, you've done all your housekeeping, you've got the documentation, your contract's been signed off appropriately. You say, hey, thank you so much for your offer. My seller has decided to go with another offer. However, my seller would like to entertain your client as a backup offer. What do you guys think is going to happen? What should happen? Anybody want to take that? I want to say what should happen next. Should the buyer's agent respond to the broker to say, hey, yeah, my client's willing, to be a backup offer. They would like to be a backup offer. Should there be silence? Should
It
there
has to
be?
be signed. It has to be signed by all parties acknowledging the acceptance of the backup.
That's right. We recently had a situation where this happened. Buyer's broker never responded. Never responded. Not to a text, not to an email. No acknowledgement. Agent tried to call, no acknowledgement. House goes under contract. House falls through due to buyers not wanting to purchase the property because of the inspection. Listing agent gives a courtesy text to the person who could have been a backup offer. However, they never heard back from them. There was no response. The contract expired out, and the seller actually signed stating that they were rejecting the offer. Okay. Buyer agent B comes back and says, yeah, I think my people are still interested. But, if we could get a copy of the inspection, that would be great. Well, listing agent goes to the buyer and says, hey, will you give a copy of the inspection? And the buyer says, no, I want $350 for it. So they didn't want to pay the $350 for the home inspection. By this time, property goes back on the market under seller's instructions to the listing agent, opens it back up. They've got 7 offers on the table. Buyer's broker B comes back in and says, wait, I thought we were going to be the backup offer. Nope, there was no backup offer. Nobody had signed. The seller had signed rejecting. Buyer's broker never responded that they wanted to be a backup offer. And also, earnest money was never tendered because there was no contract. So we didn't have a contract as a backup offer. You scroll down here. Well, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. So it says that the buyer's broker shall deposit into a federally insured trust account by the close of the business of the next banking day, where it shall be held until the transaction is successfully consummated. And it also says the failure of the buyer to timely tender the earnest money by the deadline as extended shall terminate the contract. But if they don't tender the earnest money, buyer's broker never tendered earnest money. There was no agreement in writing. Both listing agent and seller chalked it up to the buyer's agent never responded, never answered the call, never answered the text, nor the email. So there was no contract. There was no acceptance of a backup offer. However, buyer's agent B assumed, keyword assumed, that they could still be a backup offer. But there was nothing that stated that this particular agent was, or the buyer was going to be a backup offer. Had the agent responded and said that, hey, her buyers were wanting to be that backup offer, here's how this would have played out. That offer would have been accepted as a backup contract per the terms, and the backup contract addendum would have been attached to the backup offer. It also says, note that the buyers must sign a backup contract addendum within 24 hours of the date above, or the seller's acceptance of the offer is null and void and is deemed rejected. So I've dropped a little homework keeping in the chat box below, and just good notes and good practices on how to properly communicate with another agent on the other side if you do find yourself in a situation of possibly having a backup offer. So I hope that helps. If y'all have any questions, y'all let me know. And I'm going to turn it over to Randy, give you full authority, Randy, to go ahead and teach us all things HUD today. Lee, you have any input? Anything you want to say? Okay. All right, Randy, you there? I don't see Randy.
Let me unmute. There I am. Can everybody hear me?
Good
Okay.
morning, Randy.
All right. Well, I'm technically challenged, so we're going to be going
Good.
through this and try to share my screen as best I can and that sort of thing. But the first thing I want to do is, you see this? HUDhomestore.gov. I'll say it again. HUDhomestore.gov. But no, it's not scary. This is where it all starts, and everybody needs to know this website right here. We're going to go to that in just a minute. Another thing I want to show you, and this is how my screenshots work, you know. You see that right there? PQRLTY 3911. Write it down. That is our NAID number. You've got to have that. PQRLTY 3911. Eventually you'll have it memorized. But you know, couple of things I want to talk about, you know, at first, as far as HUD properties, HUD for sale properties, because HUD owns a lot of properties, and we're talking about residential HUD homes for sale. And for those that may not know, or you might know, how does a property become a HUD for sale? Well, it's an FHA loan that wasn't paid for, and through the mortgage insurance premium, MIP, once foreclosure happens in a series of events, should it not sell on the auction or whatever, then HUD winds back up with it, and then they put it back out on the market, you know, as a HUD for sale property. Now, as far as these properties are concerned, let me see if I can get to this first screen. Need to share my screen. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Okay, all right. Share send. Okay, share send. All right. Let me get to this. Open it. There we go. Okay, so when you're making an offer, with the first things is that Natalie is going to have to allow you to be registered with HUD. She's the one who's going to take care of that. And back to right here. Okay. So when you go to HUDhomestore.gov, this is what you're going to see right here. Now, again, this is where it all starts. And what you can do is that up here, it has, trying to move my screen around, y'all. There it is. there's a register. I'm gonna go ahead and click on that. Open up.
Randy, I still see just the HUD properties for sale document that you have up. Is everybody
Right.
else seeing that?
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, give me just a second here.
You might be just sharing the document itself instead of the screen.
Is that better? Can y'all see that?
Yes.
Find a HUD home?
Find a HUD home.
Okay, all right. So again, I'll just go up here. Natalie has got to give you authorization to register. And let me just
Yeah, I do. I have to go in and add. So if you guys find yourself wanting to make an offer on a HUD property, you'll have to come get with me because we have to add you inside of our HUD broker portal for you to be able to make that offer.
Natalie, I want to say that I was registered through EXP. Do we need to re-register with her
Yes.
using her epic.me email?
yes.
Yeah, we have completely different credentials. So yes.
Don't know
Thank
why
you.
it's not
You're welcome.
allowing me just ready to show you all this. If I pull this up. Why that happens?
Well,
Anyway,
Natalie, I do have clients interested in foreclosure, so I'd like to get registered, please, ma'am.
Absolutely. I'll put you down and we will get you registered. Is it for a
Okay.
particular property or multiples?
Multiples, please. Thank you. Sorry, Randy.
Well, I just wanted to show you, when you go to register, it gives you specific instructions about the, Natalie will have to approve you first, and then there's a step-by-step thing to go through. The main thing I want to tell you about when you are registering is when you put in your username and your password, it is case specific. If you don't keep it that way, I don't care how good you are in memory, write it down somewhere because you'll need to come back. If you used a dash or lowercase, uppercase, it's got to be an exact or they won't let you do it. Okay. So I'm using this to kind of give you an idea as to what you go through to get in. So there it is, sign in as a bidder user, and that's what I'm going to do. And then this is what you'll see once you get registered. You'll have a Yardy One account. And of course, mine's already populated in, and you'll have to keep yours, but always write it down somewhere because if you lose it, or if your computer goes bad, you're in trouble if you don't have it written down so that you can log in. Let me get my code number, and always use your phone number for your registration because I just got my code number they sent me. Okay, so with HUD properties, what you can do is, and anybody can go, you can just go to the website without registering in and search around. All you have to do is here, when you're searching for properties, is have the numbers, the street address, or you could put Mississippi in here, or you can come down here and click on Mississippi, and it's going to show you all 45 properties that are active for sale on the market today. So and I'll give you an idea what that looks like real quick. It's all of them. And there they are. And then they're grouped in because you can enlarge that and select on the different areas that you're looking for. Okay. That. And so what I've done is that I've selected one out. This is one in Gulfport that we have. So now with HUD, when we're talking about eligible bidders, get there it is. When you're talking about eligible bidders, first it goes to nonprofit and government agencies before it ever hits the market with us. But then what'll happen is that you'll have the owner occupant period, generally about a week, 10 days, for owner occupants, nonprofit and government agencies only. Now, with that, if they, as far as an owner occupant is concerned, there are opportunities as far as what HUD will allow as far as financing is concerned. As an owner occupant, if you go FHA financing for a HUD for sale home property only, there is a $100 down opportunity in the state of Mississippi. We're in Region 6A, and so we're Mississippi, Alabama, and Tennessee. And for any owner occupant, and there's no income limitation, as long as you can qualify for an FHA loan, you can utilize the $100 down payment because that's allowed here in Mississippi, like I said. The main thing about that is that you've got to make sure if they're getting that mortgage, the lender participates in the program, because not all lenders participate in the $100 down program. You just got to make sure of that. A couple of things that you want to do is that when you're talking with your buyers, and I have videos on this to review all this information that I'm giving you now, and Savannah will post a link so that you can go to them just to refresh yourself if you need to, or you can always call me. That's not a problem. So when you're working with the owner occupant, you got to make sure that the property is available for owner occupants at the beginning. Once that period ends, HUD may or may not extend the listing period for owner occupants. If it's an occupied type property in good condition, they will attempt to extend it because they want taxpayers in these properties. They don't want investors buying them. They don't like investors the way it turns out, or the way I read it most of the time. Because, taxpayer, well, their income tax, sales tax, property tax, they become a stable taxpayer. So they kind of generally tend to move toward owner occupants. Should no bids be accepted that are been submitted, or if there have been, and it's all confidential, then it goes to investors. Now, with owner occupants, just to let you know, HUD pays 3% towards the selling side. They pay up to 3% of the bid amount for the owner occupant should they need that much in closing costs. You can always adjust that fee. With investors, HUD pays no closing costs. And at this point, I'm just going to say these properties are bought as is, where is. HUD's not going to do any repairs nor allow any repairs to be done. For example, this property right here, come to find out, we've been told, we don't have visual proof of it yet, that wires were cut out of the ceiling. Well, these field service managers go out here and clean these properties up, and they use a generator to backfire electricity into the property, generally through the dryer plug. Well, it tested fine inside the home, but when it came to putting electricity from outside to the inside, it didn't work. Of course, wires are missing. This was discovered. It was talked about with HUD, but the buyer still forfeited their earnest money because these properties are strictly as is when it comes to investors. Owner occupants, if they have issues, then the lender can deny the loan and they can do that way. So when you go into these sites, you go straight to the highlighted address. And so now this is where you're starting to get into a lot of your information. This is where you want to go. You also want to take specific attention to the addendums down here. You see this one's 203K eligible. So that's an FHA loan. It is $100 down eligible. So you could get a rehabilitation mortgage to repair this property for insecurities you may have. And remember this, your bid amount is not necessarily what your borrower is getting. So don't bid up your repair amount in the bid because HUD gets that money. And basically the only thing HUD's going to do for you is take your money. So you put your bid in, and then when you get your loan, of course, on the rehabilitation, then they're going to be borrowing more money, and that's between the lender and the buyer. But it is eligible. Okay. So now the main thing down here is, and I suggest this, if they're going to go to the $100 down, there's an addendum that has to be filled out for. They don't have to do that, But there again, if they're gonna use that program, this is required. The property listing disclosure. This right here is about the only property information you're gonna get other than the property condition report. And right here, it says these are the MPR property repairs, prep, paint exterior, replace smoke detectors and CO detectors. Now, we know that or been told that there's wires missing in the attic, but there again, HUD is not disclosing that because they don't have evidence of it through their inspector. So these are the general disclosures down here. Rule of thumb, good practice would be when you're working with a buying client, then you want to pull these addendums and you want to get them to initial them and sign them in some way so that they understand they have seen that report. And then here's the property condition report. And you can see right here, generator 220 plug breaker panel tested. Well, it tested fine, but there's other issues. Now the water pressure did pass. This is a 35-pound air test for 30 minutes and it's got to hold. Sometimes you'll see on here failed. They're not going to tell you the specifics of that. If they're standing there and the sink has got a leak with the air coming out of it, they're not going to say sink has leak. They're going to fail the system. And if they fail the system later on, once you get it under contract, then when you request utility activations for your inspection, they're not going to allow you to turn the water on if this says failed, or if any of this electrical, if this says failed. Now, I haven't done it with this new company, JGM, that's taken over, but there's a workaround that I came up with that if you have a plumber or an electrician on their letterhead, not an invoice at all, no figures or amounts can be on it, and it states something like, have made a non-intrusive inspection on the plumbing or electrical, whatever it is, and found that that system can be turned on with plumber or electrician present. In the past, before this new asset management company, I've been able to work around and be able to get that done so that we do have water or electricity to the home. Otherwise, what you're relegated to is the pressure test or using a generator to check things out as far as your home inspection is concerned, and that sort of thing. Okay. Any questions so far? Okay. All right. So once you've selected out a property, then, oh, we got a question? No. All right. Then now I'm going to go submit a bid. And there's something we need to clear up. Natalie, you said once you're signed as a client, you can never go back as a customer. Well, everybody, we are a local listing broker throughout the state, and HUD does not recognize disclosed dual agency or buyer agency because there are listings and we represent them. So what we've done is that we've signed people up as a customer because, again, HUD doesn't recognize dual agency nor buyer agency for the local listing broker.
I have a question, Randy. So I get this, and it's from agents who are in the industry. They're established agents, veteran agents. And I think these questions are great. It's good for us to have these conversations because I'm just looking down at my phone right now and I'm getting an agent that, and let's play this into the HUD situation. An agent says, hey, I've got a verbal offer. My client loves the property and we want to send in a verbal offer of X amount of dollars in these terms. And then you go back to the agent and it's like, well, you need to put it in writing. You need to go online and submit your offer. Because what agents, they fail to remember is verbal, it's not a thing. Like you've got to have everything documented in writing. And so how does HUD perceive that? When an agent goes in and they're putting an offer in on that property, obviously they're going to review the offer and all of the terms, but they may have multiple offers. We don't know that. We can't see that on the back end. But what are they looking for? Obviously, it's got to be in writing. What are they looking for when it comes to an offer on a HUD property?
Net. It's all about net. It's an algorithm. You got to get retail out of your mind. This is not retail. This is HUD or REO, and it's either HUD's way or no way. So when you submit your bid, whether it's against someone else or there's multiple bids or whatever, it's going to be who nets HUD the most money. And they don't care whether it's cash or whether it's financing. Of course, you can't purchase one and have a home that's contingent. That's not allowed. You can't do that. Another caveat to being a local listing broker is that we can't buy them ourselves. We can't sell them to our parents, our siblings, or our children. We're not allowed to do that. And so again, it's an algorithm, and it's who nets HUD the most money, bottom line. That's what you want to look at. The only two figures that you can adjust when you're making a HUD bid would be if it's an owner occupant, you can adjust the closing costs 3% or less, and also your commission 3% or less. Now, if it's an investor, they don't pay closing costs for investors, so that's out the window. But you can, on as far as the buying agent, adjust your buying commission, which is 3%. Max is what HUD pays. Does that answer that question?
Yeah. And
Somewhat?
Josh has a question too. He's here in the room with me, so he wants to ask a question.
So if we're not able to represent a buyer on a HUD property, but say we already have an established buyer, we've already established agency, we've shown them 20 properties, they haven't come across the one they like, and then they come across foreclosure. Like, hey, I want to go see this HUD property. We've already established agency. And what do we do in that situation?
I am not clear on that because Natalie just threw something out earlier about once you sign them as a buyer and client, you can't revert to customer. So, we got to look at it as though this is a listing of ours. And you can certainly go ahead and still put the offer in, but you're representing HUD. You got something on that clarification?
So this is where most people, Josh's question is absolutely legit. And that is, we're already working with this client, and we've established buyer's agency and disclosed dual agency. You cannot give that agency up. It's established. And that's, so you have to look at your buyer and say, hey, I can't now remember, agency disclosed dual agency has to be agreed to by all parties. Buyer's agency has to be agreed to by you and the buyer. So if that buyer wants to make an offer on it, you have to look at them and say, hey, I cannot treat you as a buyer's agent, and I can't treat you as a dual agent. We represent the seller on this as a seller's agent only. When you signed up with me as a buyer, you signed up as a buyer agent under buyer agency and disclosed dual agency. I can't offer either on this. The right thing to do, the safest thing to do, and none of you want to hear this, is refer it out to another agent at a different company. And so if you get a call on a HUD property, or any property for that matter, you do not automatically sign them up under buyer's agency and disclosed dual agency. Do not do that. Mm-hmm. You're agreeing to be married with no commitment. So when they call on a property and they want to go see one of our listings, no matter whether it's a HUD or not, great, love to show it to you. Until we establish if we're going to have a working relationship, contractual relationship, you are a customer. If you want representation, you're welcome to, you can get representation. I cannot give it to you without a contract, but on a HUD property, you can't give it to them at all.
I have a question on that, Lee, and this might be far down the rabbit hole, but I'm going to ask it. All right. So I'm buyer agent Natalie, and I'm out here and I've shown 20 properties, and I've got my working with a real estate broker, and I've got my buyer agency agreement. And that buyer agency agreement clearly asks if I've got my working with a real estate broker attached to it, and I've checked that box yes on there. And there is an established date and there's an ending date. And then my buyer goes out there and they've found this HUD property online and they haven't seen it, but it checks all their boxes and they want me to go show it to them. However, I know I can't represent them in agency and I'm in an agency agreement already. Would the proper protocol be to terminate that agency agreement, terminate it, and have it spelled out in the termination? And then because I know by normal contract law, we can't go back to being, but what is proper protocol there? I heard you say the safest thing to do is refer it out. But if that buyer is just adamant that they still want to work with me, and I've explained that I can't give them agency due to it being a HUD property, what would one do?
Do you want me to be, real, or do you want me to tell you the correct way?
The correct way, because it's about compliance.
The correct way is too bad.
Too bad. So I need to refer that out. It's just too bad. Okay. Fair enough. Refer it out. All right. Thank you.
So we're, with HUD again, I'm glad we, looking at that and getting that somewhat, cleared up. But if somebody's looking at it and you hadn't gotten with them, of course, you just sign them up as a customer and that covers everything for you. And then there's the non-exclusive buyer agency form, where they know that HUD's going to be paying the commission and that sort of thing. So we've gone over as far as finding a property, who is eligible, how they're eligible. And so in looking at this, another thing is that when they're talking about the condition, again, get these documents initially signed so that your buying clients have received that, because you may necessarily need it down the road that you definitely showed it to them. So when you go to submit a bid, and of course you got my name here, you'd be all set up, and you tell them you're not a robot, and you continue. What I've got, and I'm going to throw this screen up here real quick. What I have done is that, get this open. And I'll furnish this to everybody. What I have done is that this is what I hand or send or email to potential buyers, and to let them know this is how it goes through. These are required items to submit. You got to have proof of available funds for the buyer, the bank, or pre-approval letter from the lender with the appropriate type of loan. All letters have to be dated within 30 days of offer submission and date to contain this information. Let me say this: you write an offer on a Friday, it's going to go through the entire weekend until Monday morning when they view it. The algorithm looks at it to see if it's acceptable with the HUD. And generally you get information back as to whether it's been accepted, countered, or turned down, not even looked at, by noon on the very next day. So Fridays are important. That's the only time becomes an issue, is if there were two bids exactly the same, then it's going to be the one that got submitted first. It's the only time comes in as far as submitting a HUD bid in. So always on your proof of funds letters and that sort of HUD pre-qual letters, got to have the HUD case number, property address, the buyer's name. And it's got to be equal to the amount of the bid or above, or otherwise you've got another step which you've got to go and verify that they have cash on hand to be able to do that. So then it talks about, as far as you gotta have your current address, telephone number, email. If you've got multiple buyers, you gotta have multiple emails, because you can't have one email for multiple buyers. You'll have to get their social security number. Certified funds check in the exact amount of 500 for properties 50,000 and less, 1,000 for properties over 50,000, and 2,000 for properties of 250 or more. Exact. And these checks are made out to the buyer selected closing attorney. And that's another thing in the bid process, which I intend to show you in just a moment, that you will select or get your buyer to select the closing attorney or closing agent they would like to use. You can start typing it in, and if they're not registered, then there's a procedure that you have to go through where their bank card and their E&O insurance has got to be provided to HUD to be able to do that. Now, some attorneys close FHA loans and loans all day long, but some don't close HUD. And one of the reasons is that they have to carry $1 million in E&O and not the 500,000 that the state requires. If they don't close enough HUD loans, then it's not cost effective for them to spend the extra money on E&O when they're not closing with HUD that often to be able to make that back up. So you need to make absolutely sure that they are HUD certified. And generally you can just start typing in the attorney and it'll pop up for you. So there it is. HUD clip has, if a buyer does not have one, you'll select one. That's what I'm letting these. This is for the buyer, of course. And then if a buyer is an investor buying in a company name, buyer must provide copies of the articles of incorporation and your Secretary of State registration. And you got to have the ability to sign in blue ink and return documents within 24 hours or notification of acceptance by HUD, and the ability to e-sign documents. I need to change that because it's fortunately HUD is now DocuSign. Yay. Y'all, I used to run around with 3 copies, blue ink, get to the courthouse, down Federal Building, find a parking place and get up there before 9 o'clock. And those days are gone. Thank you, Lord, for small things. So this form then goes on to have all of the information that you're going to need for when you submit that bid. And they check it, owner, occupant, or investor, the corporate name, address, what type of circle one, and this sort of thing. And you get them to sign it. This is their offer sheet. This is where they have authorized you to put this bid in their name. And once you do, you always get a confirmation number. And I'll provide this form. It's an Adobe form, so you can go in and change all of this stuff right here if you want to, I'm sure. And that way, you know, you'll have the information you need to submit a bid. Now, it talks about that you've got to have the earnest money in hand and you got to have your pre-approval in hand. Let's go back to the weekend. It's on a Saturday. You're going to put the bid in. You can't get all of that information. So what I do is that I just make sure with my people, I just ask them, you know, have you already applied? Have you got the earnest money and that sort of thing? And I'll take them at their word. Now, come Monday, my bid get accepted and they disappear on me. Well, there's really no harm, no foul at that point in time. Just let HUD know that the buyer wishes not to proceed. Now, if you do that multiple times, they will restrict you from putting bids in simply because of the protocols that you've established of putting bids in and people not performing and that sort of thing. They're going to put requirements on you and restrictions, or actually just restrict you at all from putting HUD bids in. So that's the only time that would happen to you. Okay. This. Okay, so here we are back to the bids submission. And what I'm doing is that you can see as it goes across, it's asking you for different things. So on this property, I'm just going to put in the 81,000. Bear with me. And then down here, you can see that it says, are they going to get the financing? Are they gonna get 203B with repair escrow? Or are they gonna get the 203K? Now, you saw where this one was already eligible for the 203K, so you know you can select that. If it's an online company or even a company here, you need to make sure that if you're gonna use the repair escrow of 203K, that they are set up for the escrows to be set aside through contractor invoices and that sort of thing at closing for repairs to be done after closing. Again, HUD will not allow any repairs prior to, and they're not going to do any repairs prior to for you. So the lender needs to be in a position for contractor invoices with repair escrow for you to be able to do that. Or you can see that you're applying for conventional or other financing not involving HUD and FHA. There is a VA program that's a rehabilitation program, but VA is not an option here for that. So that would be applying for conventional or other financing not involving HUD or FHA if you use the VA rehabilitation. It's a very involved process, but it does exist. And then, of course, for you pay in cash. Now, on this one, I'm going to select that he's applying for HUD insured financing 203B. The seller will pay up to 3% in closing costs, but you see it's nothing there. Here's the selling commission. Here's the broker listing commission. That's 3%. So there's your figure. So you can either put that in there or less if you wanted to, if they didn't need all that as far as closing costs are concerned. So it's going to be an owner occupant. Now here's on this one right here, when you're putting these in, this is just a little caveat. Always hold as a backup offer is to be selected. Here's why. Give you an example. Showed a HUD property to a teacher transferring from Memphis to Jackson, but it's going to be not till the next summer. Put a bid in on HUD, didn't get accepted. That was in December. In April, on a Friday afternoon, I get a notification. Your bid has been provisionally accepted. Does your buyer want to proceed? Of course, I called her. She was excited to be able to get the property. But if you mark that to be held as a backup, and then eventually you get that email and your buyer has moved on, there's no harm, no foul. Your buyer has moved on, and you just put buyer wishes not to proceed, and you move on, and they'll go to the next one. So I'll just mark that right quick. Save and continue. And so now they ask the question, are any purchaser an employee, immediate family member, management official, or other affiliated entity with HUD asset managers? So there's the rule. Again, we can't buy them. We can't sell them to our parents, our siblings, or our children. So I'm going to put no. There have been times, and I'll say this, there have been times that you've, if it's a personal reason, you can get a dispensation agreement with HUD, but that is a long drawn out process, and I've only seen it done one time in 39 years of doing this with HUD. And so what type, if this is an individual, because we're using a social security number. So I've got permission to use this person's information. Give me just a moment here as I get through this. Okay. Okay, I got that in there. current address, we just moved to street. Put his email in before I can go forward. So while I'm doing this, once a property has been accepted on the bid, there's a process that you go through at that point in time. It's called your checklist. And okay, so we're going to save and continue. So now we've got all of this information in here. So okay. Sorry. So on this, if you were to log in and go to it, then it's going to give me my screen where, and this is all my bid information again. Going back to the same property. I'm sorry it took me so long to get that stuff in. No. Okay. But I wanted to show you as you go through, once you get this done, you have the selection of your closing agent. I wanted to show you that. It's silent show. So as you can see, you have all your information ready to go. My session, they only give you a certain amount of time to get it in. So I apologize for.
So as Randy's going through,
Oh, here we go, right here. There it is. I'm sorry, my bad. I'm just whizzing through some of this stuff right here. Okay. So here's where the escrow, once you get past that, then as far as the escrow officer, I'm just typing one in.
so as Randy's going through typing into this form, as you can see, it's pretty self-explanatory, the details that are needed here. just know that your escrow officer is your attorney, not your earnest money. And the key things here is you cannot change HUD's documents. It is what it is. And whatever you put the name in, if their pre-approval letter, their bank approval letter, their bank funds, whatever name is on that is the name that needs to go in the contract as according to, because you can't manipulate it later.
So I went ahead and filled it in. I think y'all saw that I had done that by selecting. So what happens is that you will get this. Once your bid has been accepted, then this is the type of emails that you will communicate back and forth with the listing agent and you as the selling agent. So you will get a bid acceptance notification. And when I get these, I've got an earnest money deposit receipt. And I'm going to pop on that just to show it to you that when that bid acceptance comes, then this right here, this form has to be filled out by the listing broker. So what happens is that you get the earnest money is either certified fund bank check or a money order for the exact amount as I explained earlier. You take that check and you put it here along with all this information filled in, and we make a copy of that. As the buying agent, this is the form you upload. In the past, it was your earnest money check or your money order. Now they have this form that has to be filled out, which shows that we've received it. Here's a copy of it, because this is a task that we also have to do is upload this form as receiving it. And this is what you upload when your bid has been accepted. Once it's accepted, then what you do is when it gets accepted, you get your earnest money form, you get your pre-qual letter, and again, it's got to have property address, case number, and bidder's name. And then it's got to have the bid amount or more, or otherwise you have the extra step that you have to go through on making sure they've got the cash. Of course, proof of funds can be a bank statement. Redact account number. It's got to be within 30 days. And then, or you get a letter from the bank, can be signed by the bank teller. It doesn't matter. As long as this letterhead on the bank has the information on it that sufficient funds are on deposit for the purchase of, and of course, the property has been referenced. Now, when you get this and it comes to you, it gives you a bid checklist of instructions. It also gives you that in the event that here's how you do your pre-approval letter, proof of funds. If you need to cancel the bid, if you need to get an extension on it or anything, this is where you come back to this email to be able to do that and work through it. So once it's accepted, you go to you register back in, you go to your bid results, my accepted bids. And at that point, it's going to give you there's a checklist. You click on your checklist and you start verifying. Now, this is going to sound crazy, but this is HUD. This is the government. When you're looking at it to verify, there's an icon that says modify. If your information is correct, you're not modifying anything. You have to click on modify and then verify. If you don't, then your bid's not being accepted and you could lose your time frame, which is 48 hours to get these two documents in. Now, if it's an investor, of course, letters of incorporation, we went over that earlier, that's got to be in at the same time. And you got 48 hours to get that done. Once you get your checklist completed, what happens is that it goes to HUD as being complete. Then you'll receive an email. Then you'll receive an email that says review. And when you finish, it goes from you, it goes to the broker to sign it, be Natalie, and then it goes on to the buyer to DocuSign it. Then it goes to the closing agent to review it just to make sure that they understand they got a closing that's coming. And then HUD gets it, they review it, takes 2 or 3 days, and then you're going to receive something that looks like this. Here we go. Get it right back. Once HUD signs off on it, now you've got your contract package. And this is the first time you actually see the HUD contract. But the main thing you want to pay attention to is down here when HUD signed it, what day they signed it, because that's when your clock starts ticking. You've got 15 days to get any and all inspections done. And if you don't get them during that period of time, you can still get them done, but you have waived your opportunity. Because if you do find a latent defect that's not discovered or done, you can request your earnest money back, but that's not guaranteed that you're going to get it. So once you have this put together, then it's just a matter of processing it, moving on through it. You got your time to do your inspections now, and here's where they have the field service manager. It's right here. And so let me quickly go over that. I know we're running out of time. I've taken up so much of everybody's time. I appreciate y'all being so patient with my haphazardness here. And I'm always available for a phone call if you need some updating or help me guide you through this. So the thing that happens here is that once you get through your inspection period, you just got to make sure that as far as the electricity, all the utilities, and I've gone over that PCRs, whether you can or can't. During that period of time, when you get this, here's how it works. You've only got 3 days to have your utilities on. So what you want to do is to schedule your utilities to be turned on a Thursday or a Friday, because weekends don't count. Therefore, you get Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Now, certainly, there's times when there are delays. You just have to go back online and request to be able to put this as far as extending your period of time to keep the utilities on or change the time to get utilities on. What they're looking at here is your time frame as far as being able to have your utilities on, is that you want to call the utility company and say, hey, I want to get electricity on at this property. How long will it take to be there? If they say 1 day, 2 days, then you want to order it 2 days before your requested time. So what will happen is you go online to this company. There's a place for utility activation. You can't do that until you get this, because the field service company is not aware that it's under contract and you have authorization to request a utility activation. So once you get your contract package, that's when you can start all of these other things that needs to be done. And that's the only other time frames that you're under. Earlier I said for owner occupants, you got 45 days, 203K, you got 60 days, and for investors, you got 30 days to get to closing. Otherwise, you have to file for an extension. If you have to file for an extension as an owner occupant, first time they're going to give it to you free. It's a $375 charge for 15 days. They're going to give it to you the first time free. Second time, they're going to charge you. For investors, they're going to charge you. You don't get that free, simply because you're an investor. So again, HUDhomestore.com.gov, it used to be .com, HUDhomestore.gov, and PQRLTY 3911. 2 most important things that you need to know.
All right.
there we are.
Thank you, Randy, for going through all of this. And as Randy said, he is available for phone calls to help with HUD properties. And so don't hesitate to reach out to him. He also has his link in the chat, youtube.com/@Randy Inman1 is the YouTube channel where you can find videos on this. Are there any questions real quickly? We are about to run out of time. We've got 4 minutes left before we have to shut this down. Are there any questions that can be answered at the moment? All right.
It may seem difficult to everybody. It's not, it's a process. Again, it's Hud's way or no way. And it's just a methodical process to go through. Like I said, I've been doing it for so long. There are a couple of workarounds, but if you run into any issues, want to know again how to do this, certainly I got the videos. But like Lee said, I'm available for a phone call, and I'll guide you right through.
All right. All right. Thank you to everyone who's attended today, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Y'all have a good day.
Thank y'all.
Hey, Randy, Natalie gave you host control, so you have to actually click leave or end the meeting.
Okay. Where is in the meeting?
Should be the bottom right side. Looks like a little red door.
All right.